Hello, I'm Lihao. You know what? A lot of you have shared your frustration with me about using stars outside the Svelte file. When you're using stars inside a JavaScript file, it just feels so damn hard, right? It loses the magic of the dollar prefix variable. You can't really subscribe to it easily. You can't really get the store value easily. And you ask, how are you supposed to use store inside a JavaScript file? So today it's Svelte question time! You have any questions for Svelte? I have answers for you, and the question for today is, how do you use store in a JavaScript file? Tough. So I'm going to offer my 2 cents on this matter itself. So if you agree or disagree, feel free to comment down in the section below. I'm happy to read them and discuss with you. So I'm going to look at this problem itself in two different angles. And firstly, I'm going to take a look at the situation where you want to calculate something out of star inside a JavaScript file. How should you do it? So before we head over to that, let's take a look at one example. So over here I have a app.svelte that has a file, and I have a file called store.js which has two stores, A and B. So here I have two inputs so that I can change the value of the A store and the B store. And now in the sum.js, in this file, I want to calculate the sum of A and B. So here's this problem. So you want to calculate the sum of A and B, and A and B is a store. So how should you do it? So before we proceed, my question to you first is that the sum of this, is this a temporary variable, or is this variable that you want to store, that you want the value to change across time? Right, so store is a construct where it allows people to subscribe to the value of the store, right? Which means that the value of this construct itself may change across time, right? Across the time, value may change. The subscriber of it will get notified whenever a value change and then react accordingly. And so you want to calculate the sum of from a store, meaning this sum itself, the value of this sum itself may change across the time, right? So the value of the star A and B may change, and do you want this value to be changed whenever A and B changes? Right? So there's two different kind of scenarios. You want the snapshot of this current point of time when you want to calculate the sum. You want the current value of A and current value of B. You just want to calculate the sum at this point of time. You don't want to know what will the sum be in the future, right? So that is number one. So which means that in that case, you wouldn't need a store, right? Agree with me, right? Because store is a construct to store values that changes across time. And you just want to get a snapshot value of A and B and get a snapshot, the sum of the snapshot at that point of time, then you wouldn't want to create a new store. However, if you want to have a construct derived from A and B, which whenever A and B changes, the value of the new construct that you created should change as well, and you want people to be able to subscribe to it, then you would want to create a store, and that store value derives from the value of A and B. It is a sum of A and B across time, right? Whenever A and B changes, that sum should change as well, right? That will be a derived store. So let's take a look at how you deal with these two different scenarios differently. Right, so here firstly I have a function called getSum. So this function, as the name suggests, you want to get the sum, right? And this example, I want to get the sum at this point of time, right? I want to get the A value and B value at a specific moment when I call this function. So what I need to do is actually I need to get the value of A, the store A, and get the value of store B and add them together, and I'm going to return this. So I am going to import the get function from Svelte store. Right, so this get function, getSum, is being called inside buttons. So whenever I click this button, I want to get the sum. right? So this is gonna change the value of sum2. So when I click, you see sum2 change to 15. But when I change the value, sum2 does not change, right? Because we are getting the sum at that point when we click the button, right? Right now, if I click it again, now you see it turns into 23. And when I change anything, it does not change, right? We get a snapshot, the sum at that point of time when you click the button. But on the other hand, over here we have sum1. Sum1 is the way we want to use it is that it should be value of the sum, always the value of the sum of the value, the star A and B, right? Whenever star A and B changes, I want this sum1 to change as well. So to do this, I'm gonna use a derived star instead. I'm gonna derive from A and B, and here in this function, I need to calculate the new value derived from the star A and B. So this new value so this will be the value of the value of the star A and the value of the star B, right? So I'm adding prefix dollar just that we mentally know that this is the value of the star instead of the star itself, right? Also signifies that A and B is a star, right? So here I am going to return A and B. Let's see. Whoops. Hold on. Look at this. Okay, I return A and B. Here I need to import derived from the Svelte store. Immediately you see that this is a store right now, so you can't show a store like this. Immediately you need to subscribe to it, right? I'm subscribing to this sum. So now sum1 is a store that is always the sum of the store A and B. Right? So whenever I change, you see that this sum A, the value of sum A changes as well when I change A and B. Right? So get the difference between getting a snapshot of the store value at that point of time versus whether you want to create something, a variable that is going to be changes across time, right? So so you still see that. Okay, to make it clearer, here I have sum2 equals this, and I'm going to return sum2. Right, so these two are different, right? One is I'm going to derive and get a new star and assign to sum1. So this variable sum1 is a star, and this case sum2 is a snapshot of the sum of A and B, right? So you get star value from A and B, and then you add it in, right? So this variable sum2 and this variable sum1 is different, right? So you may derive multiple stars from one star, derive from a new star, and then you derive it again and again and again. And the aim of that, deriving a star from another star, is to create a new construct, to create a new star that the value of itself will always change, right? You can't, at some point of time, you want to get just the snapshot value of that star, right? So maybe you have another function here and get sum1. This will give you that snapshot value at this point of time when you call this function. So in the end, you will call like get this at some point of time, right? So the benefit of doing like getting the snapshot value of a derived store would be that you wouldn't have to get all its dependency, like getting A, B, C, or whatever that you use to calculate the sum, the store, and you just get the value of this store at that point of time, right? So at any time when A, B is changing, has changed, it will calculate a new value of this. So the benefit of the beauty of doing this is that you can get a store. When doing this is that you can just get the snapshot value at this current point when you call this get sum1 of this store, which you already calculate the sum of A and B, right? So you wouldn't have to figure out the formula again, right? So this will be useful if you have multiple places that want to know the sum. So you just you derive something from a store first, and then and other places when you want to know, you just get the snapshot value of that point of time if you want to, right? So you can save some time of computing every time for computing at all the places that requires the value of the sum. So that is my point number one. When you want to create a variable, whether it's sum1 or sum2, you have to think about whether you want the value of that variable to be always changing, or you just want to get a snapshot value at that point of time, right? And that will affect whether you want to use a derive or use a get to get a value. So my question number two to you to look at this problem is that it gets a bit ugly, to be honest, whenever you want to get the value of a star in a JavaScript file. I mean, to be honest, it's amazing and it's beautiful to just to add a dollar sign, and this value is always the latest value of, like, this will always gives you the latest value of sum1, right? But here, every time when you want to get the latest value of the star A, you kind of have to subscribe, kind of have to call this gets to get this value, right? Every time when you want to, so say for example, if I want to get the product, again I will have to say get this current value of A and B, do this again. And if I want to get maybe like get exponential, again I will have to do this again. Every time I will have to call get and get the latest value of the star when I call these functions, right? So sometimes it gets a bit unwieldy, a bit ugly, and to be honest, yeah, I agree to that. So I'm gonna show you another trick that you can do with this, so that it gets away this ugly get thing, right? So firstly, let me change the code a bit so that we can see, so that after we make the changes, everything still works. I just want to take a look at here, right? Get product and get exponential, right? So here, maybe I'm gonna create a few more variables. Pro value 2, value 3. Okay, so this is the get product, and value 3 will be the get expo. And let's just show all this value over here. Okay, so I call get sum product get exponential. Okay, so just make sure that this is how it should work, and let's make some changes to our code and see whether it will still works the way before we make a change, after we make a change. Right, so here I'll create a new file called data.js. The reason is just so that you can compare, so that you can see the difference, right? So here I'm gonna import the star A and B from star.js. So remember, this is the star, right? So to get the value of the star, you will have to call a dot, you have to call get A, right? Every time you have to call. Right? What if I say that I can have a variable, maybe call A value and B value? What if I can have a variable that like this, that you constantly update it whenever the value of the value of the star A and B has changed, right? You always update these two values, and then at the point of time when you want to get, when you want to calculate something like get sum, get product, get expo, just read this variable, and it should be giving you the, and because we constantly updating this variable every time we make changes on the store, whenever the store has changes, then reading this variable will actually give you the latest value of the store as well, right? So here is what we're gonna do. We're gonna subscribe to store A, subscribe, and when we get the value of A, so this is the value, we're gonna assign this to the variable A value. right? And we're going to do the same thing for B. So this is B value equals to B. Right? Again, this dollar prefix has nothing special. It's just another variable. It's just that we are kind of used to like using dollar prefix for a variable to hint that this is the value of the store sum 1, right? So this is the value of the store A. Okay, so we set up this subscribe, meaning that every time we are actually uh, every time when A or B changes, we are actually calling this function, and we're constantly updating these two variables. So what we can do now with these two variables is that we can export them and import into our sum. So I can come here and import A value and B value from data. And now when we want to calculate the sum, the product, or expo, instead of calling gets to get the latest value, we can actually just use this A value and B value because they are always the value of these variables are always the latest value of the store because we always update them in here, right? We subscribe and constantly update them. And so we can do this. We can replace all this get A and copy B value to replace all the get B. And now is the moment of truth. We just need to try and run them and see whether it still works, right? B, okay, this still works, okay. And what if we change this value back to maybe 2? This still works, right? So yeah, if you find that you are constantly getting a value of the store, like getting a snapshot, the current value of the store every time, then and you get it across a lot of places and you find that annoying, then maybe you can secretly subscribing to it somewhere, and so that and assign that value of the store to a variable and you export that variable. So when you do exports, actually this, right, it is a value, but because of how import export works, this is actually a live binding, meaning every time when you change this value, A or B value, these two are not like normal variables where you declare and then the value of the variable stuck there. These two are always referring to a live value. So anytime when you're referring at any point of time, right, you're actually referring to the latest value. It's not like you declare and then that's it. It's always referring to the latest value, right? So here you're getting the latest value of A value and B value, which is the latest value of the store, right? So the beauty of this allows you to not having to get like calling a get function every time when you want to get a snapshot value of the store. So this is my 2 cents on this matter, right? First is when you want to create a variable out of a store, when you want to calculate something, are you calculating it at just for this point of time, or you want to calculate, or you want to create something that is always the value, like always updating whenever the value of the store that you're calculating with changes. So that decides whether you want to use a derived or just use a snapshot of the store, right? And my question number 2 will be, if you find yourself always having to getting a store value and it finds a bit unwieldy, then maybe you can try to subscribe to the store yourself, and then whenever the store changes, update a variable, and then you just read the value from that variable, right? The only tiny drawback to this is that you subscribe to it and you have no idea when to unsubscribe to it, because when you subscribed, meaning you know that you want to get the value updated, right? But because you have no way to know when you are assessing this value, A value or B value, then you as in you don't know when you are stop assessing this value, then you never ever unsubscribes it. So this may add additional effort, like cost to your code, but it shouldn't be that big, right? It should be just uh, it should be negligible. So it's different in the app component, because once this component is removed, unmounted, thrown away, then you can unsubscribe from this someone store when you're using this, right? Because you're no longer using, you know that. But if you do it here, you have no way to know that you no longer using this value of a value, right? And you never unsubscribe it. Right? So if you use this too much across your code, maybe it may add some little cost. So you will have to profile it. There's no say like a hard no you shouldn't, or yeah. So it's a case by case basis. Right? So I hope that you learned something in this video. So if you like this video, you learned something, do me a favor, like the video, because the more likes I'm getting on this video, the more the YouTube will recommend to people like you who find this video useful to them, and in exchange you're helping them. Right? So as always, subscribe to my channel so that you get notified when the next video is out. So see ya, bye bye.